Geek Insider presents Geek Speak with Matthew Harris and Meredith Loughran. We cover entertainment, news, and tech with special guest appearances. So sit back and enjoy as we geek out together right now.
Hello, everybody. This is Geek Speak with Matthew Harris and Meredith Loughran. Tonight we have a special guest, Annas Eskander. I probably massacred her name, which I usually do, but it's better than Matthew's attempt. In any event, we are going to take down this overlay and we're going to pop into the room here and say hello to our special guest.
Hello.
Hello. And we have a special guest moderator as well. We have Rob Anderson with the Comic Book Advocates. And I just want to pop this in here really quickly because we are working in collaboration with Comic Book Advocates. They are the comic book arm of Geek Insider, and we are so happy to have him here and really excited. Annas, we hope that we are going to be reaching your UK audience because we have a lot of people over in the UK who follow Geek Insider.
Oh, brilliant.
So I wanted you to take a moment to introduce yourself, and then we're going to kind of get right into it.
Hi, so my name is Annas Eskander. I am the writer and creator of EYVA, which is a cyberpunk comic based in the 23rd century. It's a stylized world, a little bit dystopian, but a happy dystopian. And it's all about kind of social media becoming a governing body and, sort of how we're affected by it in terms of, surveillance and privacy. And then you have a world where it's rife with cyber terrorism and bioterrorism. So if you think about it, it's very sort of Tron styled with kind of like a surreal Black Mirror story to it. And you've got EYVA, who is the heroine of the story. She's very feisty, very sassy, pretty much everything I'm not, and hence why I live through her.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and it is illustrated by the legend Timothy Green II, which I only just found out that he has a credit at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy. And it's right on the same line as Stan Lee, yet his name precedes Stan Lee, which some people find blasphemous.
Right. Now, here's the thing. You didn't start off in comic books, obviously. EYVA is your first one.
Yeah, so basically I have always been passionate about art and fashion, and I went down the route of becoming a fashion designer. But I mean, I started off studying art and design, and then I did my degree in fashion, and I worked as a fashion designer for like 15 years. But on the side, I was always passionate about sci-fi and writing. And, what I did, I ended up sort of combining all three and, coming out with this comic. And, sort of I pitched it to Timothy and he absolutely loved it. I think I found him through Aeon Flux because he had done the graphic novel for it. And I think sort of the thing that got us together was the fact that in the graphic novel, Aeon Flux's hair is very tamed into a bob. And I was just like, how dare they? She has such a distinctive hairstyle and they tamed it. And he was like, yeah, I was coming out with all these amazing hairdos, which was true to her. And they were like, no, you got to go with the bob. So when we did EYVA, I said to him, go crazy with the hair, really go crazy. We want to go down the route of kind of Princess Leia's Danish rolls, and kind of just go mad. So he absolutely loved it, it was a passion project, as you can tell.
Yeah, I love that because, I think it relates to women more with the messy hair because I was like, oh my gosh, my one goal today was to get a shower in between all the work stuff. So I managed to do that, and I feel like I'm a hot mess and stuff, and just that reality, that little bit, I think that we notice maybe in a character. I don't know. Maybe Rob has something different to say about it. Matthew might have something different to say. Where I love EYVA because even though she's got the curves and everything, it's not like bodacious and all that. And, so I can appreciate the character instead of being all like, I forget the term that cheesecake, I think is the term. I'm like, cheesecake.
I think it's sometimes when you look at the cover and she's like so bodacious and buxom and you're kind of too affronted by her physique, you can't get past by her chest, whereas this, you can see she's got a personality, she's got a character, and yes, she's scantily clad initially, but it is kind of I really love burlesque dancing, and I loved all the 80s dance flicks, and that's what was brought into the comic, that so many male writers bring in the stripper scenes, and this was my homage to the stripper scene, but done by a woman and with a feminist twist, and kind of, rather than have it, done in sort of the usual taste where it's like, hardly any art to it. I kind of went all out and decided to go with a really beautiful costume and, celebrate, the female figure and, the art of burlesque, and, do it in a cyberpunk way. And, just kind of do it in a really tasteful, beautiful way. So, yeah, that was my twist on it.
Cool. Now, Matthew, I don't want to take over, so I'm going to pass the baton to you.
Well, great, because I had a question here, because I have seen a couple of your interviews. I love the comic. I even told Rhett, who's the owner of the website, I was telling him about you. And so I've heard before that this started out as a script, correct? A television script. And so tell us a little bit about that. But I also want to know is that when you worked with Tommy, did you just give him the story and he went and laid out the panels, or did you script that out of what comes in the panels, what you wanted, and how that meshed together?
Yeah, so originally it started off as a film script because, I started off writing a novel. And then when I was at uni, they did creative writing as an elective, and I didn't know what I was getting myself in for. It turned out to be script writing. So that's when I started writing it as a script. And then I'm a member of the London Screenwriters Festival, and I met quite a number of influential people there. And they said to me, you know what, why don't you do it as a TV script? Because you will get bigger budgets with TV, especially considering it's a sci-fi. So, and you get to focus on the character more rather than the world. So EYVA started off as a TV script. And when I passed it on to Timothy, I said to him, listen, they said, it was my mentor. He said to me, have you thought about doing a graphic novel, because it lends itself to it? And I was like, yeah, I do love, comics. And it was, I didn't have kind of the courage of my convictions to really go for it. But when, I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to do it. And so I showed the script to Timothy, and he basically worked out the storyline. And what we discussed was the timing of it initially, because he said, sometimes with Marvel, it can be like in one panel, you could be brushing your teeth, and then in the next panel, you're in full fight mode. So you found like sometimes it could go too fast. So I said, well, okay, slow it down. We don't want something too quick. And so he developed the panels and the storyline for it. And then sometimes it was collaborative. There was some discussions, initially it was going too slow. So we had to kind of cut out a few panels and cut down the pages. Hence why we ended up with 28 pages instead of 22. So I said, you know what? it's the first issue. I find when it's 22 pages, I really feel like, like I haven't, I want more, So I thought I want to treat my readers and give them an extra 6 pages so they can get their teeth into it. But going forward, like the way, now that I'm more familiar with the way scripts are done for comics, it will kind of be a lot more like, panel 1, this is what happens and this is the dialogue for it. It's going to be a whole lot more structured and true to the comic sort of medium. So yes, it's been a very big learning curve, and Timothy's been a big sport about having to put up with me. Well, actually, we get on, we've never had a quarrel or anything, we just have a good laugh. We reminisce about our childhood days, and that's why the collaborations work so well over the past, I think 5 years now.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So it's been a 5-year in the making then.
Yes, absolutely. I think because what we did initially, we worked on developing the characters, developing locations, the gadgets, even the motorbike. I think we started, I said, she needs a motorbike. And he came to me with like these Harleys. And I was like, listen, she's a girl. we need to rethink this. So and I was sending him loads of images. So like he'll send me like a drawing, and then I'll probably like go, because I use illustrators, so I'd go and butcher it, I say, no, it needs to look like a bit more like this, but it's still his work, it's just a little, right. I do the fun part of editing it, and he probably does the even more fun part of hating me for editing it.
Well, we're going to take a really quick break, and when we get back, I want to hear more about the collaboration, and because as a fashion designer, you do drawing and things, so you have that artistic side, and maybe there's a little bit of bumping of heads, but we'll be right back after this.
We'll be back right after this.
Check it out. MobileEdge.com has award-winning products with innovative features and contemporary, edgy designs that empower you to look sharp and travel smart with your mobile tech. Your beloved, not to mention expensive gaming gear and mobile tech devices are an extension of you, so give them the protection and style they deserve wherever you go. Find them at MobileEdge.com and protect your tech with Mobile Edge. Bring it on. Hey Geek Insiders, Mobile Edge has a special coupon code for our dedicated listeners. Get 25% off your Mobile Edge gear using coupon code GEEK25. That's GEEK25. Geek out. Okay, we're back with our special guest, Annas Eskander. I'm not going to get that right. She's going to laugh at me.
You can just call me
like these freaking Americans. They keep massacring my name. Damn it.
Like you said, I'm not even trying.
He's not even going to try.
This accent, I butcher Smith sometimes, so I'll stay away from it.
Well, with the spelling of the name, the first time that I met you, I was just like, I wasn't going to say your name because I did not want to get it wrong,
No, to be fair, I mean, I think it is a little bit confusing the way it's spelt, sort of because like I'm actually a second generation immigrant. So I was born actually in Baghdad, and I was 3 when I came to the UK. So my name was originally written in Arabic, and so we didn't become British till like 1988. So my parents were like, go off and write your name however you want, So I thought, you know what? I'm going to have an Anna and I'm going to stick an S at the end, Little did I know the problems that I would have.
And like I said, you look at those silly Americans.
Oh no, don't worry. It's like I get it all the time. I mean, to be honest with you, when I was at university, I just thought, you know what, I'm gonna sort of go around with a nickname, and they used to know me as Anise. So sometimes, I'd go through phases where it'd be like, what's your name? Anise, and it was a lot easier, and I never had any issues. And then I'd go through phases where I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna stick to my heritage. I'm gonna stick to the name that my parents gave me. And then I forget there's a whole group of people who are like looking around thinking, who is this person?
So you're changing names like we change our hairstyles sometimes.
Yeah.
So
with the season.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Sort of, it's like, a flavor of the week.
Yeah. Well, before the break, you were talking about the collaboration with Timothy Green II. And with your history in art, with fashion design and everything, were you at all interested in maybe trying to lay out or draw these characters? I mean, what was that like to maybe give this baby to another person and say, create her? That must have been hard.
I think, in the sense, when I was doing fashion, I loved manga, and I was always trying to do my illustrations in manga style. And it was like I would try different styles, but like it wasn't my strength. I can draw a garment, and I can do it like technically really well. But when it comes to like illustrating, it was always a bit of a difficult. I think I was too much of a perfectionist. So in terms of like giving creative direction, I absolutely loved the idea of just putting those mood boards together, and then in creating the direction of it, and then just passing it off onto somebody who I knew could deliver it. And having seen Timothy's work, I knew I was in really good hands, because if you go on DeviantArt, he's got and also his Instagram page, his work is absolutely, it's impeccable. It is just, breathtaking. The characters, there's a soul to them that, they come off the page. And, so I would just bombard him with just loads of mood boards, and that's where my fashion kind of side came in. Because before we come out with a collection, it's like we sit and do all these mood boards on PowerPoint, and then sort of design. So what I did all the mood boards. I said, this is what I'm looking for. Even like sort of sometimes the looks of the characters. I'd give him two faces, and I said I need a hybrid of these two famous famous actors, and we just don't make him look so obvious, that's what I'm going for. So originally, like, I was doing a cover for, like, it was kind of a lifelike cover, and then I showed him that, and then he did sort of the character studies. And that's sort of looking at the different working on the cover. So he's so good with architectural designs and,
Beautiful.
Perspective. And it was done sort of so he did the background and he did the character separate. So I could use that on sort of the cover and the back cover, or, wherever I needed to use it. Actually, I've used it on the introduction. And that's another city. It's kind of more barren and very sort of soulless, but, very deadly as well, It's kind of, there's three faction groups, So you've got the Ardents, that's where the city where Ava lives and works in. And they're kind of, technologically in the middle, where they have all these implants. Everyone's, being sort of tagged and watched all the time. And then you have sort of the Draeris, which is another faction group, but they're more extreme. And they're very ruthless. And then on the opposite end, you have the reformists, and they are so anti-technology. They're very much like, sort of, it's all green wilderness, tree houses. And it kind of reminds me of, like in the Time Machine, where he goes in so far into the future and they're all living in tree houses. That's kind of the way we wanted to go. And it's building those contrasts, and it's all about sort of illustrating different ideologies in terms of how we wish to live in the future, because we're going to go into so many extremities. Sort of, do we want to carry on down the route of having all this technology, or do we want to go back to basics? And then, there are consequences to that. So, with the reformists, they're so nature driven, they do lack, some things that are, important for survival. So, whereas Ava, she is torn between two worlds, and she is trying to find that medium, the middle ground between the two worlds. And she's a very torn character. She has that duality that's, sort of, in terms of, if you look at Batman, he really struggled with his duality, like I think we all do in a sense. And, as I was writing, there was 8 reasons to back Ava. Sort of the thing about comics and heroes is that it reminds us that we all have, this hero inside us all. So, writing it was a pleasure, because in a way, it kind of made me feel like a bit of a superhero writing her, and kind of having her come to life through Timothy. And we had so much fun doing the implants. That was the inspiration board. And, sort of, we want, like, you can't really see it so much, but I did want to have like circuitry going around the face. And I think you see it more with the characters in Dreris, because they are so much more extreme that it's almost like they've let technology overtake their humanity, and you've got like, circuitry going down the side of their face, because they're so, the implants have gone to an extreme. And so, that is Ava at her work. She is a bioengineer, and she's looking to cure a degenerative brainstem disease using nanobot technology. But unfortunately, that same technology can be used as a weapon to manipulate people into submission. And, it's all about power and control. And so she's kind of, put her front in it big time. She's trying to, save humanity. Instead, she enslaves them.
Oh my goodness!
It's such a beautiful book. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, this is the cover. Now, this is the is this the variant?
No, I think the one where it's got the architectural background, we ended up going with. The other ones, I think, if what's trying to think.
Let's see.
Yes, it's that top one on the right.
On the right.
Yes, that's
now.
Rob's
This is
favorite.
gorgeous. Yes, this is absolutely gorgeous.
So I'm thinking of potentially using her as the art print that I've decided to promise. If I reach the goal, then everyone gets a free art print. Everyone who's basically gone for the physical bundles where they've paid, P&P, and that's the variant cover. So I asked people basically which one they preferred, and a lot of them preferred that one with the, sort of the cityscape behind her.
Yeah, it's absolutely stunning, just the artwork, and to hear. And this is the mention that you were talking about before.
So I was coming out of the supermarket, and I was messaging Timothy, and he just dropped it, like, I said to him, somebody said that you worked on, sort of Guardians of the Galaxy before it became a film. He's like, yeah, Star-Lord, I was like, and then he's like, oh yeah, and I even have a credit, just casually. Yeah, I've even got a credit at the end of the film, in the credits. I was like, really? And you're telling me this after, 5 years? And I said to him, neither of us are so humble that we do ourselves any justice whatsoever. He was like, it's a good trait to have, but bad for business. So you can imagine I was basically going on YouTube trying to look, trying to get Guardians of the Galaxy because it was no longer available on my cable TV. And the thing about YouTube is you cannot screenshot anything anymore. Right. So there's me trying to find a darkened room to take up my phone. It's like, I'm just taking a screenshot of the credits. Like, give me a break. But yeah.
Well, who does that?
Oh, I know. Who does that? Some crazy lunatic.
It's so funny because it's obviously not in alphabetical order, and he's before the Buscemi's.
Oh, I know. I mean,
family.
You should have seen me. I was sat there waiting, scrolling, and I don't even think. No, I might have had my glasses on. I was like Mr. Magoo. I don't know if you ever did. You have Mr. Magoo? Yeah, I'm looking for his name, and it's like a needle in a haystack. And I finally found it. I'm there doing a victory dance.
Oh, that's funny.
Now, Meredith, do we have the video where she's talking about the comic?
And we're going to play that after our break. We've got a couple of more minutes to just kind of gab a little bit, and then we're really going to kind of get into the IndieGoGo and try and get some support to get you across the finish line. Yay. Because you've only got 6 days to go. We've got the banner at the bottom here, EYVA on IndieGoGo. Support this project today. Do a search. It's a lot easier than the really long URL, but if you do a search for EYVA, EYVA, it's going to pop right up. It's the first thing. She's 88% there. She's got 6 more days to go. I'm hoping that, we're going to do a follow-up article on Geek Insider, so hopefully that'll reach our audience as well and kind of get you across the finish line. We would love to see this because the way that this one is set up, and again, we'll talk about that after the break, is it's IndieGoGo, all or nothing. Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So we definitely want to see this fund because I want that book in my hot little hand. Let me see. And actually, we're going to just jump into break right now, and then we'll get into that. We'll be right back. We'll be back right after this quick break. For Geek Insider advertising opportunities, contact advertising@geekinsider.com. We offer space on the website, in the daily newsletter, sponsored posts, and advertising space on our podcast. For details, contact advertising@geekinsider.com. Okay, and we're back. Rob is in the green room here, and he is welcome to come in and chat and ask questions. Let's see. So we were going to kind of get into the IndieGoGo, but I mean, is there anything else? Actually, there is, because I want to talk about the journey, because that's something that I love about Geek Speak, is that when we talk to the creators, we kind of get the journey. And I love that. So,
well, let's start with this real quick, Meredith, because this incorporates my question as well that I had. Okay. You talked about that once you went to university that you started working on it as a script. When did you originally come up with the idea? When did you first start working on this?
And what was the influences?
Yeah. And then let's take it from there. The whole journey. We're here for you.
So that's a really good question because, this is something that I've not really sort of talked about publicly. My dad was a doctor and he was working in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia for 8 years. 6 years of those, we were there with him, and I was there as a, teenager. And, during the Desert Storm War, we didn't leave like the rest of the Brits left. Everyone pretty much the expats got evacuated. So I was there during the war, and it kind of that sense of wanting that escapism. And, you know, I am sort of a bit of a dreamer, and, you know, it kind of makes you question humanity, and that's why I always loved sci-fi. It was a form of escapism, because sometimes things were very restricted and difficult. You know, I was living in a country where you weren't allowed to drive. You weren't allowed to go anywhere on your own. Like, if you had your younger brother, it could be 7 years old and could be your acting chaperone. You know, it was just, or like if you wanted to go into like a video shop, you couldn't. It was restricted, men only. So there were so many restrictions on you because you were a woman, and that kind of, you know, sort of gave me so many ideas. I mean, I also went to like an all-girls school, and we were heavily restricted, you know, sort of like if, for instance, if, you know, like we had the boys section, they could actually see us from their windows. And instead of doing something to, you know, to prevent them, you know, sort of staring into our school, they ended up boarding up our windows. It was very kind of like Handmaid's Tale. And so I would write. I would sit and read. I think I would spend my summer just reading and doing some writing. And I think I wrote some stories where it was very sort of like, you know, kind of a bit of like astral projection, where you were jumping out of your body and taking flight, right. Kind of that sense of wanting freedom. And so, you know, with EYVA, it's kind of, it questions people's, you know, the restriction, you know, your belief system and how it restricts you, you know, and that kind of concept. And I didn't want to sort of go down the route of bringing, you know, sort of people's religions into it. You know, I wanted to kind of do something that wasn't going to be offensive to anybody. You know, it was just purely ideas, you know, that you could, you know, like just by your ideas, you could end up caging yourself up. And with EYVA, she is a free thinker, and that can be very dangerous. And, you know, so yeah.
Well, my question, I guess, would be when you maybe had to approach your parents and say, I want to be a fashion designer. Because I know from my experience, I went to music school. I wanted to be an opera singer because I would never be a rock star, and I knew that. So I figured I was going to be on one stage or another. And so I said music school, and my parents just looked at me and said, why can't you go into computer programming or something? You know, I'm like, I was the child that they didn't know what to do with. So I'm wondering, especially with your background, yeah. You know, because I have a Korean mother, and so we had that dynamic of like the Asian culture.
Oh yeah, yeah. Okay,
so very strict and kind of like women are kind of submissive, except behind closed doors. You know. I'll just leave it at that. But you know, so there was this perception and kind of a role and everything. And so when you approached your parents and said, fashion design, I can imagine what that conversation might have been like.
I think sort of with me, I was always drawing fashion pictures since I was 8 years old. I was just sat there drawing. So I didn't really, and my mum, she was like a dressmaker, so she kind of blames herself. and you know, I remember like going down the route, you know, of wanting to become a fashion designer. My dad's like, how many famous fashion designers do you know? You know, there's just a handful out there. And little did he know that, you know, they are always, you know, there are loads more. They're just kind of in the factories or in the little offices, you know, provide, you know, like, you know, there's so many out there that you just don't realize it. You don't have to be famous to do what you do. I did actually, to appease my parents, try to go into architecture, only to find out it was probably about 2 years extra, a lot more expensive, and, you know, sort of again, the job situation was pretty similar. And I just thought, you know what, am I doing this for the right reasons? As much as I do love architecture as a form of art, you know, it was just not me. And so I think I also went up to one of their friends, my dad's friends, and I said to her, I've got a choice. I either become a doctor or a fashion designer. What do you think? And she's like, oh, definitely fashion design. Being a doctor sucks. So just don't make my mistake. And then the funny thing was my sister actually became a doctor, and she's a general practitioner, and she was sat in a group with all her other general practitioner, sort of, it was like some conference or something. And, you know, she said to them, you know what, like, my sister, you know, she's at home, she's getting paid really well, and all she does is she sits and draws pictures and colors in. And, you know, I feel like, and all these doctors were questioning their life choice of becoming a doctor because it was just so stressful. And there's me. She makes fun of me. She's like, "What's wrong? Did you hurt your wrist coloring in?"
And I get the same thing from my brother because I've worked from home for 20 years. And like, if I get sick and I go, yeah, I didn't work today, I was sick. Sick, you just type on the damn computer. And I'm like, okay, you know, they don't get it. Some of them just don't get it sometimes.
I think in my family too, I'm like the hardest working underachiever there is. You're like, what do? You write stories and blogs and social media. I'm like, how hard is that? I'm like, you should try to be available 24/7, you know? It's like, shut up.
You have to be self-motivated, you know, you have to, you know, have that perseverance, you have to be determined. There's no one to tell you, you know, that you come on, let's do it. It's all coming from you, you know? So, yeah.
And I think that segues really nicely into the intro video, and I'm going to play that right now.
Perfect.
EYVA is a cyberpunk comic book series based on a love of 80s sci-fi and fantasy fiction. The story is set in the Ardent Nation, an upbeat, stylized technological utopia set in the 23rd century. However, all is not what it seems, Individuality and privacy are rare commodities that only the governing elite are privileged to. So imagine, if you will, social media becoming the governing body of a surviving nation. Everything about you and what you do since the day you were born is automatically streamed onto your timeline. This is then monitored by a totalitarian regime known as MAINFRAME. MAINFRAME's prime directive is to compete for technological advancement and for survival in a post-apocalyptic world. In the spirit of fighting cyber-terrorism, people of the Ardent Nation are kept on a short leash through the use of surveillance implants. The message is simple: comply with MAINFRAME's standard behavior protocol or be rehabilitated. It's all about working as a collective for a common cause whilst suppressing any scope for individual thought and self-expression. EYVA is now complete and ready for publication. It's a labour of love that's been brought to life by the epic illustrative skills of Timothy Green II. It's an extraordinary journey, one of which we hope our readers will join us on.
I have to say, I saw the longer video as well. I was on Rob's show of the Kickstarter pause, That is absolutely gorgeous. You cut it off right at the right time. I've always loved your voiceover in the beginning. It's absolutely perfect. And then just showing off that artwork and you're telling the story. I mean, how can you not be interested in it? I'm not even a huge sci-fi fan, but just that storyline and the artwork and your presentation, you can see that this is a labor of love. And so
that's cool. All right, Matthew, since I'm in another tab, if you can do the share screen, if you haven't done it already. This is basically her IndieGoGo page, and she is very close. In when I was checking, it said 88%. It says 87% here. I don't. Yeah. Let's get her across the finish line, guys, because this is an all or nothing one, and we don't want to miss out because I mean she's got some pretty amazing things, and I know. Annas, that you've already talked about it when we were going through your Instagram and stuff like that, but we just want to kind of go through really quickly, maybe show some of the different tiers and stuff. But just the artwork is just amazing. You've got the digital download here, and guys, for the U.S. market, shipping is not terrible. I mean, it's really more than generous with the U.S. shipping, which is something that I was nervous about, but I backed it, and so don't be afraid of the pound sterling symbol. I know some of us are like, oh no, I'm not going there.
Oh yeah, no, I think it's very close.
It's so
at the moment it's very close. Yeah. No, I tried to basically, of course, because I'm based in the UK, it had to be in pounds, and I just went for the pounds version, because it's like £3.99 for a comic or $3.99, so maybe in hindsight I should have lowered it, but they don't accept pennies. You have to round it up or down. And with the postage and packaging, I kind of kept it as low as I could. And so what's on offer is, so basically you can just get the comic, or, you can get a digital download of the comic, or you can get a combination of both and, reduce the price for that. And then there's also the exclusive variant bundle where you've got the, the variant cover with the digital download, which is slightly more expensive, but the reason being it is exclusive to IndieGoGo. I think at the end of the day, it's you want to offer something that they won't get anywhere else, and they won't, I think I'm only doing it for the campaign. After that, it's, it all depends on how I'm feeling. On how generous I'm feeling.
You've got things like postcards. You've got a retailers bundle, which is very, very cool. Behind the scenes. Can you tell us a little bit about that, the behind the scenes?
Yeah, so basically I'm going to put together all the sketch work and the development work and put some notes on how it developed from kind of concept through to development all the way to the finish. Even also include the script as well. So it's kind of, you can really get a behind the scenes sort of taste of how this first issue came into being. And I have shared some images on Instagram, and this will be the whole package with commentary. And it's kind of, it's a nice little treat because whenever I see something, it's nice to see the kind of the sketchbook that went on behind the finished product. There's also the drawstring bag,
a little bit of fashion, just
a little bit of fashion. Yes, originally it was like a natural kind of natural cotton, but it didn't appeal to the boys, so I had to succumb to the black. The black's more universal.
It's not a man bag.
I thought to myself, maybe I should do t-shirts, but then it's the whole saga of having to, get people's sizes and all that. So I just thought, keep it simple, because it is like a first campaign. Going down the line, I will sort of think about potentially doing T-shirts. It all depends if people are happy to have, a scantily clad woman on the front of their T-shirt. But yeah, and also I did do phone cases, but it's one of those things. It's not been very popular, but I think the one thing that has been popular, as well as the comic, is sort of offering the original artwork. And because sort of I just thought, give them something that you won't get anywhere else. And that's kind of Timothy's original sketches.
Mm-hmm.
So actually I've got 10 out of 24 claimed. So that's almost half, which is pretty good kind of for like £100. And that also includes your postcard and your drawstring bag and behind the scenes. So it's like you've got a massive goodie bag. I think I've kept them very generous because, at the end of the day, I do want to be generous to my readers, and because it's something new, and because I do I just think it's goodwill, just to sort of be really giving and generous to people. And so that way, you do end up with a really sort of loyal fan base that will keep supporting you.
Right. Now, I see that you have a stretch goal, which I'm going to say is not impossible to reach. It's not, it may seem tough, but you've got almost a week to go. And, I think by kind of putting this out there, because you've got a lot of really cool stuff as far as perks and things, but it's a really good book. The artwork is phenomenal. I don't know if Rob is in here because, like I said, I'm on a different screen. But this one, it says with the stretch goal of £10,000, it kind of gives you the go ahead of EYVA.
Yeah, I think initially, I wrote that 2 months ago, so okay. I didn't know how the response was going to be. At the end of the day, because I didn't illustrate it, so I have, the way it works is that, all the funds go to Timothy, who does the illustration. So I'm having to pay him to do it. And that's why it's a little bit more expensive than if you're the illustrator and you're bringing out your own book, it doesn't cost as much. So I thought about it, and I thought, what? If we get to the 4,000 mark, at least that will give us the green light to start working on the second issue. Mm-hmm. And also that we will go into the in-demand phase. If it, sort of reaches goal, then you can go into the in-demand phase. So I will be able to continue selling the first issue, and all the funds that come our way will go towards the second issue. So at the end of the day, it's all, it'll trickle, it'll feed into it, sort of drop by drop. Mm-hmm. That's kind of the contingency plan.
So now how far are you into EYVA 2, the second?
So there is a script, and it's basically a case of just storyboarding it, doing all the panels. The script is the TV one. So it's just a case of, doing it in the comic format. And then just because we've already done the development, we've even developed the characters for the second issue. Oh, wow. So it will take next to no time in comparison to how long it took to bring out the first issue, because all the work's been done.
Now, I got to ask, because I'm a writer too, and I know how things play out in our heads constantly. Mm-hmm. Have you seen the end of this yet? Or is the stories just too widespread for the ending to be there?
I think I have a sort of ending, but there is I think it's more like it's very widespread and anything can happen. It's a very kind of down the Game of Thrones approach, She's
gonna blow everything up.
I was gonna say when I think of that, I think of hellfire and everybody dies.
Yeah, something new. What haven't we done to kill somebody off? what style, I mean, I was pregnant at the time of watching The Red Wedding, so you can imagine my reaction, like I was like, that really stings. I was there clutching my belly thinking, no. Like I was gobsmacked. I was like, that is really hitting below the belt, literally.
That's so funny because I really enjoyed that series too. But the thing is, I love horror, I love thrillers, I love twisty endings and things like that. People, things that get people thinking or wondering.
Yeah.
Where do you see this going? I mean, is there a Beyond book 2? I mean, do you see this becoming a series?
Oh, absolutely. I definitely see it as a series because you have. This is kind of like the tip of the iceberg, really, because I already, as I mentioned, there's three worlds, and you're going to see a little bit of the Dreris, which is kind of the extreme technological world where they are just monsters. They want to dominate everything in their path. And then you have the reformers who have yet to come, and they come in the second issue. And there are so many, there's so much potential for the storylines that you can even have spin-offs as well. But for now we're keeping let's just stick with Ava and her journey into kind of like wanting to do the right thing. She's also in, like, you'll find out her background, sort of where she came from, the relationship that she had with her mother, and kind of there is a story about redemption, and that's what's kind of driving her, to go down her, she's got her own agenda. And there's so many amazing characters to come. It is a series. I can guarantee, there is so much more to come. I mean, even I know Timothy's itching to get on to issue 2. I just have to kind of like, sort of wave the flag and say, go for it. Yes, go, go, go. It's like drag race.
Okay. Matthew, we're almost at an hour here, and we usually ask the last question.
Yep.
I'm going to turn it over to you because I get tongue-tied and I screw it up.
Every time she does. We've been doing this for a long time now.
I'm so nervous now.
But it is going to kind of put you on the spot a little bit. But if you could go back in time and give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
I think it's be confident, be brave, be courageous, have the courage of your convictions. Don't be ruled by fear, because fear can be a demon that's very hard to shake off. But the good news is, once you get to 40,
you just don't give a shit anymore.
No, it's like, you know what? I've been down using the same formula for the past 40 years, and where has it got me? And now it's time to have a midlife crisis.
Oh goodness! I remember when I hit 40, I was just like, when I was younger, 40 seemed like so old. And then I hit 40 and I was just like, what have I done? What have I accomplished in this life? So now I'm getting closer to 50 and I'm just like, don't care.
Yeah, I know. It's like, it's just a number. So
as long as I die, I have no regrets, and that's my goal, is I'm just going to do what I love and stuff.
Absolutely.
Rob, you've been in the background here. I know you've got power back on. Let's see if you're here. Take off your mic. Do you have any questions for Annas before we end the show?
Hi, Rob.
Hi. I think you guys did a great job. Every so often I get to just be a fan. I get to show up at one of these and just be a fan of all the information, hear the amazing stories behind the creators' journeys, and there's no need for me to talk. Those are the best shows I'm on, when it's not me talking and everyone else is talking about creating.
And we got an exclusive out of her. We found
Yep.
out where the story came from, and that's always a great accomplishment here on Geek Speak, is when either we learn something personal that people didn't know before about our guest, but this was really great because it was both. It was personal and it was in regards to this great comic and this great story.
And it shows the spirit the creator has that I've been talking about the
Right.
whole campaign. You can't look at this book after hearing her talk and not think about how amazing this story is going to be, considering all the places she's been and how far she's come in her own life.
I agree. I agree
Thank you.
100%.
And Phil Locklear, if you're still tuning in, Demon Phil, I know you've got a couple of shows. Maybe we get her on here and pitch this out a little bit more for the final week. No pressure. But he says here, getting behind the scenes and retailer. But I want them signed, please. I see this being a very sound investment.
Oh, absolutely.
I think so too. If I had it in the budget, I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm totally getting a few copies and sending them out. But, yeah, go ahead. Final words.
No, I was going to say, like I did think about signing them, so that may be in the cards. Watch the space.
Oh, excellent. Excellent.
Cool.
That's always a bonus, I think, when the artist and the writer can sign the books and things like that.
Yeah, I think the thing is, because I'm in the UK and Timothy is in the US, so it's a little bit tricky. And what I did think about maybe shipping him over to Manchester. So
It might be cheaper to bring him over.
Right?
Just bring the man over.
Instead of sending the books. Yeah, but right now y'all aren't letting us in. So,
Oh, I know. No,
You
actually, we've taken down the. What's happening with the quarantine? Because I know my mum-in-law was in Italy, so she's coming over because she's like, are they still quarantining? I was like, no, that you can come. Just wear a mask.
Right.
Right.
But yeah, no, we'll see how it goes. We'll sort something out, and if not, we can always do something like a convention and people can bring their comics and we'll be happy to sign it, because I do plan on coming to the US at some point and doing a convention, because that's, I'm really looking forward to it. I don't know if I'll dress up. I know Rob wants
the
something.
cover, the cover photo.
Rob
No,
wants
and I was, I was
he
thinking
said,
of the
can you dress up as
jumpsuit.
Ava? I was like, I'm not going to do her justice.
I said that I would absolutely help take pictures. I am offering my services. I would even help her with outfit choices. I know some places.
You know what? I'd love to get Cara Delevingne and dressed up as Ava. Oh, that would be awesome. Mind you, that would attract a crowd.
The person that popped into my head was Charlize Theron.
See, that's who I saw too.
Yeah. Well, she did Eon Flux, the film version. I thought she was really good in it. It was just it was just the storyline. It wasn't as surreal. It wasn't in keeping with the animated series. And I can see, and I was a bit like, okay, they didn't choose the right writers who knew the soul of Eon Flux. But
And they do that too much. There's too much of that, especially when you translate comic books to the movies. It seems like some of them have only read one piece of source material. They were never really fans. They don't really understand the character.
Absolutely. I mean, when I saw it, and I thought these guys aren't fans of Eon Flux because, if you think about it, they wanted to commercialize it, make money out of it. It's like, it's not a commercial, Eon Flux is very it's a niche market and you have to keep to that niche. And, if now we have Black Mirror and it is surreal. It is surreal and it works. There is a following and they should have kept, to the essence of the surrealism because there is a market for it, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, we are at the 1 hour mark and technically our show is over. You guys take care. Visit geekinsider.com. Make sure you sign up for the newsletter. Follow Annas. We had her links during the chat. So just kind of scroll up.
And just go to
take a look.
IndieGoGo and search for the EYVA.
There we go. And we're out of here.
Bye, everyone.
You've been tuning in to Geek Speak with Matthew Harris and Meredith Loughran, a Geek Insider presentation. Subscribe to the Geek Insider podcast on your favorite listening app and sign up for the newsletter on our website. We also have advertising opportunities through the website, podcast, and newsletter. For details, contact advertising at geekinsider.com. This has been a Geek Insider production. Thank you for listening. Geek out.